Android.
Now at 6, the Missouri Secretary of State gives a civics lesson on what happens to a ballot when it's submitted. Plus, authorities report no injuries after 2 school buses collide on Interstate 44 in Joplin. And we have an update on impeachment proceedings against the mayor of Carthage.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
When you vote on November 5th, you might wonder what happens to your ballot after you turn it in. This is KOAM News at 6. I'm Anthony Saviello. KOAM's Samantha Walker sat down with the Missouri Secretary of State to learn about the certification process for election results.
When your ballot leaves your hand, you won't be the last person to see it. Your ballot is dropped to the bottom of a tabulator or ballot box. It isn't copied or destroyed. When polls officially close, tabulator machines wrap up their numbers from all precincts, and election officials begin their count as well. But that is just the first step in a nearly month-long process to certify official election results and make sure your vote was counted correctly.
We keep counting. We then go through a process of certification. We go back and check the numbers. We keep track of how many ballots are sent to a polling location, how many are cast, how many are spoiled, how many are brought back. Does that match up with the number of votes?
He says this process also allows them to correct any issues they may notice within election results. Ashcroft says it's not uncommon for numbers to be entered incorrectly on accident at the local level, but the certification process ensures that someone else is counting those same ballots and corrects those numbers before it's too late.
Sometimes we will notice a problem on election night with a number, but once we've put it out there, we don't change it until we go through the certification process. Because the last thing we want is for numbers to be changing and people saying, hey, what's going on there?
The Secretary of State adds that you will likely see a slight difference in numbers between the unofficial results released on election night and those released after the certification process. The official results come directly from the Secretary of State's office after they've completed all certifications. You can find them on their website. Samantha Walker, KOAM News.
The certification process typically lasts for 30 days past the election. It's expected more than 3 million Missourians will vote this November. The November general election is fast approaching, but in order to vote, residents must be registered in the county where they live. The deadline to register to vote in Missouri is this Wednesday, and the deadline to register to vote in Oklahoma is this Friday. For information on where and how to register, you can visit our website at koamnewsnow.com/elections. And some Oklahoma voters should be aware the Ottawa County Election Board has announced a change in polling locations. According to the board's Facebook page, the location for voters in Precinct 23 will change from Quapaw City Hall to the Quapaw Fire Department meeting room. The board says the location change is due to storm damage at City Hall. The city of Carthage is in the process of moving towards the impeachment proceedings of Mayor Dan Rife. KOAM's Melissa Alexis breaks down what's happened so far.
Carthage City Council has discussed the impeachment of Mayor Dan Rife starting back in April. The articles of impeachment filed by the Carthage City Council accuse Mayor Dan Rife of violating his oath and duties as mayor. One of the other points of conflict include tension relating to the Carthage Water and Electric Plant. Timothy Engelmeyer was supposed to be hired as the hearing officer when the impeachment hearing date was set. However, Rife filed for a temporary restraining order against the proceedings. A Jasper County judge determined that the delayed hiring of Timothy Engelmeyer violated Mayor Dan Rife's due process rights. As a result, a temporary restraining order was granted to Rife, temporarily halting the impeachment. The mayor's attorney believes that certain members of the council should be disqualified from being part of the impeachment jury due to bias. The date for the impeachment hearing is tentatively set for October 29th. In Jasper County, Melissa Alexis, KOAM News.
The temporary restraining order was resolved and official plans for the impeachment hearing will be discussed tomorrow at the Carthage City Council meeting. A little bit of a cooler day for us today, Chief Meteorologist Doug Hetty.
Yeah, it turned out to be a great Monday for us today. 77 for a high, so cooler than what we saw over the weekend. Average high is 74 degrees. We started at 46 this morning, so kind of chilly across the region. Let's go outside. 73 in Joplin, 72 in Pittsburgh. If you are going to be out this evening, fantastic 70s, upper 70s once you get into our southern counties. We are fine. Nothing's going on here. Clear skies. But look at this hurricane. Look at that tiny little eye wall, only about 8 miles across. Very small hurricane, tiny hurricane, very compact, but it will get much, much bigger. Not stronger, it actually gets weaker, but bigger as it heads out into the Gulf of Mexico as we go through the next 48 hours. So it's a Cat 5. That's kind of the strongest I think I've ever seen sustained winds at 180 miles per hour. We'll talk more about Milton and what you're going to see at your house here in just a bit.
Doug, thanks. A McDonald County judge today formally sentenced Dawn Wynn to life in prison without parole for shooting and killing her husband, Harold Wynn, in 2021 near Anderson, Missouri. During her trial in August, the defense argued that the initial investigation of the scene included a series of missteps as well as no fingerprints on the murder weapon. A forensic pathologist testified that Mr. Wynn could not have committed suicide due to the lack of trace evidence, gunpowder, or burn marks. Wynn was also sentenced to 15 years in prison for armed criminal action. You'll find more details on the case, of course, on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Joplin authorities were clearing a crash on I-44 west near Range Line just after 10 a.m. this morning when another crash occurred. The secondary crash, which happened in the eastbound lanes, involved 2 school buses and a towed vehicle. The first bus was towing an SUV. As the first bus slowed in traffic, the second bus crashed into the towed vehicle, crushing it between them. Authorities say both buses were new and being delivered to a school district, but did not have children on board at the time. There were no reported injuries. The Royals look to keep their playoff hopes alive. John Dales has that story and more coming up later in sports. But up first, a Missouri family blames late 911 response time for their mother's death.
Don't now.
When you call 911, someone sends help right away. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. But that's not what happened to one suburban Kansas City family. And they say it cost a mother her life. Andy Alcock has more.
My mom was lying on the ground.
Catherine McClellan's 8-year-old son called 911 from their Prairie Village home in July 2019.
He did everything right. He acted heroically.
The 911 call from Catherine's cell phone hit a tower across the state line, so the call went to KCPD.
I live in Prairie Village, Belanger Avenue.
According to expert witnesses, as soon as the boy identified where he lived with the house number,
7347. 7347.
the call should have been transferred to the Prairie Village Police Department and Johnson County MedAct for an ambulance, which medical experts say likely would have saved Catherine's life. Instead, the call was transferred to the Kansas City Fire Department. A call taker there had the boy check on Catherine.
Mom. Mommy. She won't talk back.
As a running clock shows, more than 11 minutes after the boy called for help, a Kansas City Fire Department supervisor finally called Johnson County MedAct to make sure an ambulance was coming.
Checking on the 7347 Belanger, just to make sure you guys had that address.
The McClellans settled their case against the city for $4.1 million. As part of the settlement, Kansas City police now must randomly check 50 911 calls each month to make sure they are handled correctly. A little later, there were a lot of great sports performances this week, but only one could be called Performance of the Week. John has that story and more coming up.
Plus, our temperatures are going to warm up just a bit over the next few days. Plus, the latest on Milton coming up next.
Get an 11.
Well, it turned out to be a nice Monday for us today. Cooler with that cold front that dropped through yesterday. So instead of record highs like we saw Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 80s yesterday, today into the upper 70s, which felt pretty good. Nice shot of our Cornell Arts and Entertainment Complex tower cam. Of course, we are looking northeast through downtown Joplin. If you are going to be outside this evening, it looks pretty good. All right, let's drop to Milton. Hurricane Milton is going to be a big story across really the entire country as we go through the next couple days. Very intense hurricane, one of the strongest hurricanes I've ever seen. The water is very warm. Here's the Yucatan, and look at that tiny little eye wall. Just 7, 8, 9 miles across, a very compact system. But I want you to notice, see how the clouds are starting to spread out to the north? That is kind of sheer. So as that occurs, this will get bigger in size, not stronger, bigger in size, and slowly start the weakening process as it moves across the Gulf of Mexico as we go through the next 48 hours. So you can see those upper level winds pushing all the way out across Florida. But still, this is going to be a major, major hurricane as it makes landfall on Wednesday evening, early Tuesday morning. Look at this, clocking winds sustained 180, pressure 905 millibars, which is very low. So let's track Milton. Stays at peak strength next 24 hours. Gets out across those warm waters, Gulf of Mexico. As it presses into Wednesday and heads toward Florida, should start to drop a little bit. Still major hurricane. Remember, Helene was a high 3, low 4. This is still a pretty strong 4 at this point in time, and then should make landfall near Tampa. The dirty side, the more stronger side where all the severe weather is the right side. That's where you get the storm surge. So from Tampa to Fort Myers, look to be seeing the worst of this as we get into Wednesday night and Thursday. So big deal down there. Back here at home, back to the boring weather. At least boring for me. You guys probably like it. Mid 70s. Looks pretty good right now. Currently sitting at 73. Northerly winds at about 5 to 10. Through the evening, 60s, 50s, 40s. Kind of chilly once again, but we do have the clear skies. We're going to stick with pretty much clear skies tonight and the next couple days. Not a whole bunch going on if you look out toward the west. Our jet stream still way to the north, meaning that's where all the bigger storm systems are. We will start to at least throw some rain chances in the forecast, which is good, just not over the next couple days. Chilly start, mid 40s. We get into the 70s by noon. Most of us notch or two warmer than what we saw today, about 79, 80 degrees. Upper 40s again Wednesday morning. Once we get into Wednesday afternoon, a little bit warmer, 83, 84 degrees for an afternoon high. 49 to start, 72 by noon. Let's go with a high temp on your Tuesday of 79 degrees. Now by Thursday, we may get a random shower, but that's it for this week. This weekend, we heat up near 90 by Saturday, cooling down a little bit early next week, and then better chances for rain right at the middle of the month. So this is going to be late next week, 15th, 16th, 17th. Until then, status quo.
Yeah, just got to hold out a little bit longer. It'll cool down a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't like being near 90 in October.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Doug. Still ahead, Missouri Southern football previews another battle with a top 25 opponent, and a Miami high school softball player makes her college commitment. John Dales has those stories and more up next.
Missouri Southern football fell to Central Oklahoma on Saturday, dropping the Lions' 2024 record to 1-5. Now MSSU still in search of its first home win and first MIAA win of the season. That week, that pits the Lions against 4-1 Emporia State.
It would be really easy for some of the blunders and frustrations that we've had this season to just like, hey, screw it, 2025, here we come, But I think our guys have a tremendous amount of respect for each other and the hard work and sacrifices that we've made in the summer and off season. And we understand that the results are not what we wanted. It's not what we planned for. It's not what we weren't shooting for this start.
It all starts in practice, getting those reps, everybody talking, communicating, seeing what we see, seeing what we don't see. I mean, I feel like that's the biggest piece coming out, and stacking days.
That contest for the Lions will be their third-ranked opponent of the 2024 season. And this morning, we get an update to the Division II coaches poll. Pittsburgh State moves up 3 spots. The Gorillas were ranked 10th the last 2 weeks. They get bumped up to 7 after a few upsets on Saturday across the country. There are just 2 other MIAA teams in the top 25. The aforementioned Central Oklahoma, they're at 13. Then Emporia State, also just talked about them, they're 18th. Central Missouri dropped out of the top 25. The Mules were the preseason number 2 team in the country, but they've lost to UCO and Fort Hays State. Over to high school football, the most recent edition of our Performance of the Week goes to Nevada. The Tigers beat Lamar 20-19 on the road on Friday night in the Silver Tiger rivalry game. That is Nevada's first win over Lamar since 2004, before all these players were even born. You can vote in every single one of our Performance of the Week polls on our website. Every week it remains open from Friday night through the next Monday at noon. Some commitment news today. Miami High School junior Danae Green announces her verbal commitment to University of Missouri, Kansas City. Green has been a standout pitcher for the Lady War Dogs and just helped lead them to a 3rd consecutive regional title. She and her teammates play in the Class 4A Super Regionals against Wagoner this Thursday. The playoffs continue for the Royals tonight. After losing by 1 run in their first game of the ALDS on Saturday, they hope to even the series. Cole Reagans is the starting pitcher for Kansas City tonight. He was dominant in his first start of the postseason at Baltimore. He got the win in that one after throwing 6 shutout innings. Yankees are expected to start Carlos Rodon. First pitch in the Bronx is just about 15 minutes away. Big night for Kansas City sports. We've also got the Chiefs hosting the Saints on Monday Night Football. The defending Super Bowl champs are one of just 2 undefeated teams remaining in the NFL, along with the Vikings. After a 2-0 start to the year, the Saints have lost 2 in a row entering tonight. And this also comes as Chiefs fans are getting kind of conflicting reports about Rashee Rice. Just in the last hour, Adam Schefter said his return is going to be sooner than you'd think. While at the same time, Ian Rappaport said he's done for the year.
Well, if he does come back, I'm sure Chiefs fans and Chiefs team would love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. That's it for sports. We'll be right back. Well, here's a look at what's coming up on KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. We'll have details from the latest Joplin City Council meeting. Plus, a young woman in Missouri who has spent her life in and out of hospitals is now trying to become a doctor. And the Israel-Hamas war has hit the 1-year mark. We'll have more on whether a ceasefire could be in the works. Those stories and a lot more coming up on KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. The Missouri Department of Conservation has some advice for keeping animals safe during spooky season. The department says one Halloween decoration to watch out for is fake spider webs. They recommend using smaller webs instead of larger ones. They also recommend checking your webs on a regular basis and keep them closer to the house. Doesn't really feel like it's almost Halloween, does it?
No, we had 3 record highs of 90 degrees just a few days ago. A little bit cooler for us today. Tomorrow 79, but look at this. We heat back up through the 80s. Slight chance for a shower Thursday, but back to near 90 again by Saturday.
All right. And Chiefs looking to get a win.
Yeah, they are, and so are the Royals. We're just about 10 minutes away from first pitch for the Royals, and there's a big difference between going back to Kansas City down 2-0 or split 1-1, so they're very much hoping to get that win tonight.
Absolutely.
Need a win.
Yeah.
We need 2 wins tonight.
All across the board. Well, thanks for watching. We'll be right back here at 10 from all of us here at KOAM. Have a great evening.